Hey everyone, welcome back to another landscape photography series. Today we're going to be talking about a super handy tool that will definitely help your photography and help you level up those photos, and that is going to be filters, bad boys. The things that we attach to the front of our camera. You can either screw them on or they're going to be like the little squares. That's what I use. And there are different type of filters and each one has a specific use. So let's break the basic ones down and I'll talk about how I use them within my shooting process. So first up is a polarizing filter. This is one of the most popular filters for landscape photographers, and for a good reason too. A polarizer helps reduce reflection and it helps reduce glare, especially on water and glass. I use it if I'm shooting waterfalls or if I'm shooting tall buildings. For example, when I was shooting the train in Chicago and waterfalls in Iceland, I always put that on to help reduce the glare. It also enhances the color in your scene. Bluer skies, richer greens, and a little bit more contrast overall. I'm not very big on that, but I always pull my contrast down just a little, and thankfully we're shooting in RAW. Now, one I don't have and I really don't recommend using, you can use them, a lot of people use them, it's like the go-to for every single photographer out there, and you can use rotating polarizers. On how much effect you want, all you do is attach it to your front of your camera, you twist it left, right, whichever you want. I know like Peter McKinnon, he has his own stuff, and a bunch of other people, they've created like these magnets and stuff like that. And the problem that I see with those is there's a weird color tint, especially when you're trying to fix color within your photo. The round ones that you put on generally have a weird tint to them, and I'm not a big fan of that. So next we're going to talk about what I use. And what I use, and they're still neutral density filters, but mine are a little bit expensive. You're looking low end 500, high end 800. And so an ND filter or neutral density filter, for example, like this one, if you put it on the front of your camera, it is going to cut down the amount of light. Think of it like sunglasses on your camera. Okay, it's going to restrict the amount of light that is hitting your sensor. Well, why would we want that? Well, if you want to do a long exposure shot like smooth waterfalls, silky sky, clouds, and capturing motion in water, or you want to capture, motion in general. And generally, these little filters are what I use. So this one is a 6-stop neutral density filter, and we talked about stops, right? What is a stop? A stop is equivalent to 2 times the amount of light that is coming into your camera. And in a few upcoming videos, I will actually sit down and break down what is a whole stop and stuff like that, and balancing out your exposure triangle. And so the 3 that I mainly use is, again, my 6-stop filter. Then I use an ultra, it's a gradient, so it goes from dark starting at 0.6 and then it comes down to eventually it's completely clear, right? And that's a graduated filter. And then I have a hard ultra, which is also a 0.6, but this one is more of a hard line. You have a hard line right here. I don't know if you can see that, but that hard line is really useful for seascapes. Like, for example, you're in Maui and you're shooting a sunset and you want to bring down that color, right? So without a neutral density filter, it is hard to achieve these smooth water effects in bright daylight, because your image will definitely get overexposed, or your filter will just wash out everything. Your exposure will wash out everything, right? The neutral density, or the ND filter, lets you slow down your shutter speed without blowing out your highlights, right? So I've talked about a few of these, and now let's go into a little bit more depth. So let's talk about the graduated filter, right? On a graduated filter, ND filter, the filter is dark on the top, like I was saying, and it graduated fades to clear to the bottom. And it's perfect for where the sky is much brighter than the foreground. For example, you're in the mountains and you have a sunrise, or if you're shooting sunset, you want to place the dark part over the sky to help balance out the exposures between the two, the bright area and the dark area. And this is to help prevent overexposure in the sky while keeping details in the foreground. It's especially useful when you want to capture those dramatic skies without losing detail in the rest of the scenery, right? And of course, so to essentially recap, polarizers, one, enhance the color and reduce reflection. Neutral density filters, or ND filters, let you do long exposures and bright conditions, and graduated filters help balance out the exposure between the sky and the land. And these simple tools can definitely make a huge impact. Now, how do we do this? Well, it's simple. You attach it to your front of the camera. Mine specifically, and this is why I don't like the round ones, is because I use this guy. And what's cool about it is as we put them together, and let's say I'm using my 24 to 70 millimeter camera, all you do is you slide it in there and boom, right? It's just one simple slide in and you're good to go. Well, let's say I'm not getting that effect. Well, this is what I love about this specific set, is that you can double it. So I already have a 6-stop. And if I'm at f22 and I'm like, I'm not getting to that 15-second mark that I personally like for my silky waterfalls, well then I'm going to use my hard one, and guess what? I can double stack these filters like so. And now that gives me even more. So if I was to place this, right, you probably can't even see me, right? And that's how you stack, and that allows you to create that. Now, if those two with me at f22 and I'm not getting the effect that I want, then a step, and we'll talk about this later down the road, something that I'll do is what I call stacking. I'll get it as close to 15 seconds as possible. I'm gonna pay attention to my histogram, and I'm gonna push my highlights just a little, as close as I can, and I'm gonna pay attention to the water to see, and I'm not worried about everything else in the scene. I'm specifically worried about the water or the sky, because I wanna see what's going on. And so when I meter, sometimes your meter is gonna read a little funny. And so this is where having the histogram coming into play, in you looking at the right side, and you wanna kind of push that. And when you look at your camera, you're going to see your water and your sky. If you have your highlight alerts on, your sky might be blinking, and that is fine. What you're not worried about the sky, we're worried about the water, right? Because we already did our 5 bracketing photos, which we'll talk about in later series. We already did that, so we know everything is going to be fine. We're specifically worried about the water, and so we're going to push that. And if we can get the 15 seconds without blowing the water, even though everything else is overexposed, that is fine, because later in Photoshop, we can then go in, blend our HDR together, which we do manually. I don't use any softwares, like HDR softwares where it takes all your photos and it blends it for you. I'm not a big fan of that. I want maximum control over my photos. And so to do that, I process a single photo, I make sure it's all exposed the way that I want, I put it into Photoshop, and then I manually blend all of that together, right? And that's what's going to create your base layer. So that's it for today's video. Filters are easy to use and can take your landscapes from, good to great. And thanks for watching. And if you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Cheers, mate.